The line, I just recently discovered my wife had an affair for 2 years. I found out about the affair when I looked through her email and found out she was pregnant with the other man's child. I confronted her and she said she was terrified. I had told her on the phone that it was over and she cried. 10 minutes later, I called her back and told her I would be with her all through the disaster because I couldn't bear the thought of her going through such an event all alone. What would her family say? What would our friends say? She will be cut off. She will have nowhere to go. She will be devastated. We had a long talk when I went home. I am currently working, training overseas, and will be here for 3 years. My wife said she felt abandoned and that I never really showed her that I loved here because I had to leave a few months after we married. I felt really remorseful and apologized again and again, telling her it was all my fault and not hers. Unfortunately, we decided to get an abortion and I accompanied her all the way, caring for her and telling her how sorry I am. But when I asked her to stop seeing the OM, she said she needs time to think. She says I was never around when she needed me, and indeed I was never the greatest husband, this I admit. But I sincerely apologized and even forgave her. I told her I would forgive her 70 times 7 times if need be, but she still says she wants to consider thing over, whether to leave the OM or not. I am deeply depressed. I am now back at my job in another country. I can't imagine what my wife is doing. I want to trust her, but she says she has not made up her mind yet. I asked her when she would be ready to start over again. She says she doesn't know if she wants to. I sent a text to the OM to ask him to back off. I would have confronted him and beat him to death, but that would only pain my wife. I love my wife more than I love myself. I used to be a spiritual man, seeking God in all I do, but now I keep asking God where He is at this time. I can't help it, I am lost. I love her, I am willing to forgive her, but why wouldn't she start a new life with me? I wanted her to join me in counseling, but she refused. I asked her what she wants. She said I was pressuring her. I told her to leave the OM. She said it was difficult. Every day, I call her, text her, and even send her love letters, but she seems cold, distant. I text the OM and threaten legal action, for it is illegal under the penal code to entice someone's wife here, but I don't know how that's going to end. They both claim they love each other, but I warned her that going with someone like that, with no morals, would only X her. She said he was a good guy and that she was the one who fell for him. I'm lost, really lost, depressed. I want to move on, but I have only been with one woman in my life, and that is her, for the past 10 years, from studying together to marriage. I love her so much, I don't know if I can ever learn to love anyone else. There was a problem with it, ectopic, and we had to abort it. I accompanied and cared for her through the process. I thought I had moved her by my sincerity, but I really don't understand what's going on. I'm again away in another country. We'll be back in 2 weeks. It's going to be a terrible 2 weeks for me, not knowing what I'm going home to. Was I too soft to her? Is this not the way to deal with it? I thought she would be touched, and indeed, I felt that she was at first. That's when I asked her to start over with me, but she wouldn't give me a straight answer, just constant crying and blaming. She said she thinks of coming back to me, but haven't made up her mind. She says she feels pressured with my constant asking, and that whenever she thinks of returning to my side, I blow it by pressuring her and setting up boundaries. I do not think I am at fault, but I do not know how to go on. There is a way for her to come over. She is supposed to come for an internship to where I am, where we will be together again. But now, she is hesitating as if she wants to come. I admit, I am weak. I really am. If not, I would have kicked her out the moment I found out. Not writing love letters to win her back. I am going to put my foot down. I will make her choose. I've always known what I did was weak, didn't want to admit it, needed a wake-up call. This is awakening. Please continue to whack me till I am fully awake. I can actually read and smile again. We'll give her a little time to get over the abortion though. That is the least I can do. Losing a child, even unborn, is never easy. Even I am deeply sad over losing a life. So, while I let her rest, and while I have this freedom away from her, please brothers and sisters, whack me silly, because I couldn't be any sillier. How do I expose the OM? He is single, but has a respected job. I thought of messaging all his contacts and friends, especially his family, on FB to tell them the truth, but would that bring me trouble? Defamation, invasion of privacy. Well, maybe not defamation, cause what he did is true and I have proven. I was a complete doormat. I couldn't agree more. Just set my wife straight a few hours ago. Made her cut all ties with other men, threatened her with D and all sorts of lawsuits, for her and other man. They are both professionals, so it will destroy their lives completely with something like this. Just like from what I read here, she was angry, accused me of snooping, invading her privacy, forcing her to an end. Blah blah blah. I told her she could go announce to the world what she did and leave me to be with other man if she wanted. But all she did was cry and cry. Well, too bad. Our marriage can live with a little anger and hate for now. We'll see if she really repents and is sincere at R. Any ideas how to go on from here, dear friends? Deep inside, would still like to R, but with all these emotions, wonder where it's headed. Will the anger and hate subside? She's pretty pissed off, I guess, but I'm standing my ground. What should I do next to R? She says she's not ready for counseling. Well, maybe talking to a stranger isn't really our Asian norm. Doesn't feel too comforting for me as well. Given time, maybe we'll go for it. I can't go all softy for her again. I'm not going to woo her back. But I'm stuck. What do I do next? The truth is, I still love her. I'm hurt, but I still love her. Just talked to her again. She sounded remorseful and was willing to she is messed up, and that is partly my fault as well. So, with all the boundaries set up and my decision made clear, I'd give her just a little time to think. She's still going through the emotions about the abortion. So I am actually depressed about the abortion we went through. This is my timeline. We've been married 3 years. I got a job in another state just 2 hours away 6 months after we married. I drove back and forth to her every 2 to 3 days. Then we both moved to the state I was working in a year later, married 2 years now. We spent time together unseparated for a year. Then 6 months ago, I came overseas. So basically, she started her affair when I had to go over to another state. I messed up as well. Life was hard. I was just trying to give her a better life by working a little harder for the first few years or so that she can sit back and relax for the rest of her life. I talked to her about that. She agreed. But she betrayed me. We were together 6 years before we married. I was never with anybody before her. I was also her first man, but not her last. She did say that she missed me, but that was all a lie even until D-Day. I know that now. I just didn't want to believe it. But I believe that she is a liar and a cheater, and nothing can change that unless she wants to change it herself. Pray hard for me, guys. I must see myself through, for my own sake, somehow. She has a good job and doesn't really need the finances. My hope is that she is still hanging on because somewhere in her heart, she still cares. The OM has broken off with her. I found out while snooping at her email and rubbed some of that at her face. He was like, I really love you, but I can't see that I can do anything. Blah blah blah. I hope that by backing out, you can save your marriage. I will remember you till the end of my life. Sickening. I just texted him again this morning to warn him of the consequences of ever contacting her again. My comment, I can't believe this is a real story. When your partner has another baby that's not yours, you don't need to engage with them. You just run, you run as quick as possible. This one was a hard one to read. Story 2. The ability. I'm not even sure where to start. My wife and I have been together since we were teenagers. I've never slept with anyone else. We have 3 great children, all teenagers, and have been married for over 15 years. All was going well until social media came along. Long story cut short, my wife got addicted to Facebook and in particular to the attention she gets from various, normally younger, men who messaged her. She doesn't work and has plenty of time on her hands to accept the rather crude efforts of these men to be flirtatious. Unfortunately for her, a lot of these chats were rather easy for me to see, so I knew exactly what was going on. Rather than stop when she thought I knew what was going on, this gave her a reason to justify doing it even more, hours upon hours in a week with the same 2 to 3 guys. If you're going to spy on me, I'll give you something to spy on. The reality was that however long I gave up spying and trusted her, she kept on doing it. I didn't have to see it to know it was going on. The hours and hours of using her phone or sitting at her PC behind closed doors gave it away. So, is that cheating? She was never crude or particularly physical. She was essentially receiving the admiration of these crudely flirtatious guys who were happy to request photos of her so that they could justify sending some of their own. As far as I know, she never sent anything other than what she would publicly post on social media anyway. Another of these texting cheating posts. You may think at this point, no, it gets worse. So, at this point in our lives, the kid's not really kid anymore. Her newfound confidence in her attractiveness thanks both to all of the male admiration flowing in her direction via Facebook and reassurances from a growing circle of separated friends. Were at that age, she also started to go out more, and drink, both at home and went out, and drink. The nights out became days out with nights in hotels with friends, 3 minutes for a year, or even weekends out. Initially, believe it or not, I could handle the nights out because she shared those experiences with me by telling me all about them when she got back. However, as I became, in her eyes, more and more judgmental of her friend's behavior, it was always a friend, never her. What I got told became less and less. I therefore found myself having to ask about what went on rather than just sitting there and listening to her. I obviously asked questions that made her uncomfortable, because she thought I'd be judgmental of some responses. She was right. So, those answers became either lies or very watered down to such an extent that there was no point asking. A better man than me would have stopped asking, except I'd never know and leave it. But that isn't me. I long for the days when we shared everything, when I was different. In her eyes to other men, I could be told things. And as a result, our relationship was special because of that bond that had been there forever. We've spent all our adult life together, and I don't see that as a bad thing. Now, our relationship is like any other bad one where the woman, who's 40, wants to be 21 and a single hot chick whilst the guy, who is 40, willingly accepts that he is 40 and just wants a quiet life with a loving wife. She's not 21 and I've not got a loving wife. It sucks. And it continues to get worse. So, during their nights out, she's obviously attracted that admiration of those guys who are willing to flirt face to face, not just via Facebook. Some are the same guys, others are extra guys. Any admiration, as long as it's from a good-looking guy, is obviously accepted, although when she gets home, she strangely tells me that nobody would ever be interested in her when there are so many 20-something girls out there. A few of these guys have kissed her, she's confessed, but only a kiss and only once. Various excuses are used, mistletoe, birthdays, good night, all of which are plausible. But trust me, not everyone by a long stretch. I've dealt with that without a problem, but not when it's kept from me. One guy in particular though keeps coming up, and this is why I write. They've snogged several times, but always discreetly at the end of the night, in a dark alley or similar. She's been back to his place, but I'm sure that they didn't sleep together, and although I've told her what I think they've done, she'll only confess to one snog. Not confessing to going back to his place, not confessing to any more than one snog. To put it into context, this guy is single and loves it. He is a muscle-bound, healthy living, East Coast beach apartment type of guy who is a woman's man, if you see what I mean. Not a settle-down with a ready-made family type of guy. So, on the basis she always comes home to me, hasn't slept with another guy since she's with me, tells me occasionally she loves me and is a great mother to our 3 boys. Do I consider this cheating? Couple of other notes. I'm sure that she is bipolar or similar. Nothing is ever her fault. She is never wrong and loves to embarrass me in front of people by telling them about my infidelity, of which there is nothing of note, and how crap and controlling a husband I've become. I know that I'd be better off leaving but can't. Don't ask me why, because I cannot answer, I just can't. I'm very low but cannot do anything stupid because it would be wrong for the boys and those who care for me, a few friends, my parents and my boss who's really supportive. If I could grow a pair I'd leave, but I'm struggling so much to decide whether that is the right thing for everyone. I've given my life to this person, I love her so much, and somewhere in my mind I believe that she will one day wake up to herself and change. I wish I could put me first, but I cannot. Someone said doormat, possibly that's correct, but not by choice. Let me put it this way, active bonding life, although I get nothing and give everything. Big house, nice cars, holidays, kids, chose to work or not. For her, I have to work to facilitate it. I'm in real estate. Unfulfilling. You wouldn't have thought so, but evidently, you are correct. I unfulfilled by not being a younger, fitter, bum of a man. I did go out with her, until she started wanting to go out with her garbage friends. Then I went out with her anyway, as in I went out with her despite the fact she didn't want me to, so she made sure that everyone hated me, the sulky guy, the party pooper, the father figure, the fun spoiler. Believe it or not, I had too much self-respect to continue going out with her. I don't have enough self-respect to leave her though. And to everyone saying put your foot down, look up bipolar or narcissistic. It causes emotional and verbal abuse to fly in my direction. It's incredibly painful and soul-destroying. Because I'm the man, even in this day and age, getting people to believe that my lovely, fun, happy wife is abusive to me is impossible. It's lonely, heartbreaking, soul-destroying, painful, and it happens very frequently. My infidelity, honestly a couple of kisses, bit more and a bit of fondling on 2 occasions, both when we were on a trial separation, led to her wanting me back after throwing me away, a typical case of not being wanted until someone else showed interest in me. And she stopped after 2 or 3, honestly, bottles of wine and a few beers. No, she has very little control and there is a drink problem. Kids are handling it pretty well, the middle one is trying to get involved, but by and large they are at an age that they do their own thing. I'm not stupid and every day I think that we've spoiled their lives and I will forever regret that. But, what little self-respect I do have, allows me to tell myself that I do all that I can to protect them from the hell it would be for them if I wasn't there to take the daily abuse a narcissist needs to throw at someone. All local guys, all want her. Problem is, she's seen as a bit of a challenge because she doesn't give out that easy. I know that this sounds contradictory, but it's the being wanted that seems to turn her on, not the actual act. It makes sense when you think about it, she has to justify everything in her head. So, the flirting, crudeness, which originates from the guys, is not cheating. In her head, the fact she dances and socializes openly with these guys in bars, in the company of her friends and people from our community, cannot be cheating because they are simply having fun, and if she were cheating it would be hidden. You can hear people thinking if her husband's okay with it. It's being chased that leads her on. I'm sure, based on evidence, that the one time I know her to have gone back to his place, that they did not FK. He wanted to, and suffice it to say, she couldn't, and I've seen SMS from him that confirm that. I'm also confident that when she stays in hotels with her friends, that she has not slept with a guy. She needs to be seen as not cheating to keep the justification going in her head. I'm not stupid enough to say that I know for a fact she hasn't slept with another guy since being with me. Nobody can know, but I'm not hung up on that. It's the being chased, the being admired, and the undeniable, by denied, kissing, flirting, and almost emotional affairs that X me. Hence the question, is it cheating? She absolutely, 100% convinces herself and those around her that she has never cheated. Yes, a stereotypical alpha would have walked away, would have stood up for himself and made her life hell. Personally, that isn't me. I'll take the crap to keep it from my kids. I'll look after her financially because money mean nothing to me. I made my money once. I'll make it again if needed. I gave my word to look after her in sickness and in health, and I feel she is sick, but that might be making excuses. I genuinely appreciate everyone's feedback. Please don't think I'm ungrateful. I agree with the vast majority of what's been said, and to be honest, I'm closer to leaving than ever. However, the main thing that I'm learning is that her contagious justification of her actions needs to be avoided and my own sense of what's right to prevail. Brit courts nearly always favor the mother. If I divorce, I go alone and she gets everything. I don't care about anything other than the boys, but it would be almost impossible for a guy to get the kids in UK unless you can prove abuse from her. And that in itself is another prob with Brit courts. Not many women are found of being abusive in a relationship. It's always the big men, not the timid, small women. As I keep saying, it's a damn lonely place to be. Before marriage, regular, good, no problems. First few years of marriage, no obvious problems apart from getting a little tired maybe. Tried for kids, it was just a, almost, daily effort that was a means to an end. After kids, months and months of no bonding, like 9 to 10 months at a time. After Facebook and growth in her confidence, quite regular, and then she started being with these friends. All of a sudden there was loads of bonding again, down to me to instigate, but I did. Recently, still fairly regular, pretty much when I want it and occasionally when she does, but I don't seem to satisfy her. Even though I will spend ages doing everything I can, she will not let herself enjoy it. Maybe I'm just bad at it, having not been with anyone else, ever. I don't really know. In short, I think she gives out to me out of duty and occasionally cause she's needy, probably thinking about some other dude. Longer term, if I'm honest, I think I have to plan for D because we've tried ours so many times. At this point in time, I don't see her changing, even if I do manage to start changing from the nice guy that R. Glover refers to in his book, Guide. In all honesty, I just wish she's made it easy for me, have a full affair or leave me. I'm really struggling to be the one to leave. I'm honestly sometimes glad that she's out, because it gives me a break from the BS and abuse, and the BS used to justify the abuse. Normally, the morning after she's been out, she's nice, so again it's a break. The NPD is certainly the main issue affecting me, but the confirmation of whether she was cheating was also needed, and hence it's what I asked in my opus. I've lived my life for this woman. In fact, I'd say that I've lived through her. In hindsight, I see how stupid and dangerous this is, but I cannot change that. I do next to nothing for myself. I do everything either for the boys, for her, or for someone else. When you add the fact that she is narcissistic and, almost therefore by definition, emotionally abusive into the mix, it may give you an idea of how hard the whole situation is. I agree entirely that the answer is to grow a pair and either give her a dose of her own medicine, then leave or just leave. I genuinely appreciate that. However, it's proving very difficult to do. I had a long chat with my best friend about this yesterday, and we both knew that I needed to end this either by walking away or asking her to walk away. Even though I can see what the right thing to do is, I just cannot go through with it. Making excuses to justify my inaction. I'd say I just need more proof, but deep down I already know what I want. I just cannot go through with it. I just wish I could. I've only ever slept with my wife and hadn't had any adult relationships before her. However, I had a few girlfriends, maybe 5 to 6. Of those, only 3 were in any way serious. 2 of those 3 left me for my best friend at the time. Not the same guy, 2 different best friends. The third also 2-timed me and dumped me. I've never really dumped a woman, girl. Then there's the case of my first proper boss. I worked for her for 4 years and was humiliated by her almost daily. I worked my ass off for her, putting in massive hours only for her to belittle me and take credit for my work. She was one of those promoted to the point of ignorance people who was in a job she knew nothing about. I made her look good, but she had to keep me in my place. I think possibly this has affected me a lot and may account for some of my self-doubt and insecurities. I'm not making excuses. I made that point clear to my counselor. I don't want to use those newly identified past life experiences to justify anything, but it obviously helps me understand how I've become what I am. Then, there's the question of what am I afraid of? We ran many scenarios. I'm not afraid of being alone. I think I'd like it, and if I chose to do so, I'm relatively confident that I could find someone. I'm not financially restricted. I'm basically not scared of anything that affects me personally after leaving, being left. What I am scared of is, 1, the conflict. Conflict terrifies me in a curl-up-in-a-corner kind of way. I know how stupid, childish, unmanly this sounds, but I'm being honest. I can hire and fire people professionally and make other tough day-to-day business decisions, including large financial decisions, without losing any sleep, but it's totally different in my personal life. 2, I won't be able to protect her. Now, this is a revelation that I think my counselor and I, stumbled across this morning. I've lived my life to provide and protect her and the boys. By not being there, how can I do that? I cannot, and no doubt many of you will say that I don't need to. So, this is the next hurdle that I emotionally need to get over. In terms of what I can do today, I'm not sure how to answer that, other than continue working toward the 180 and trying to stay stronger than I've been. The problem is now that I'm permanently thinking about it, what she's done, what she might have done, how it makes me feel, how trapped I feel, how I'm struggling to find a way out. It's easy to justify feeling down, and it's easier, in my conditioned mind at least, to do nothing than to do something for me. But I keep trying to push myself to take this step that I simply know I need to take. But, being scared of the conflict, it's just so easy to sit there and do nothing. It's hurting me that she chooses to spend all of her free time, and more, on her phone texting, flirting, generally socializing, but pretends not to. By giving her justifications, even though they are not really justifying the time, I feel I'm playing into her hands. In her head, my spending 10 minutes on the phone means I'm doing something I shouldn't, which means she can do 10 things that she shouldn't. Struggling to say the words "I've had enough" or "I want out," let alone take it that far. It's not what I want. What I want is my happy married life back, but I appreciate that isn't going to happen. Actually, divorcing is something that scares me senseless. My low confidence and low self-esteem make it difficult for me to credit myself with the right to expect my wife's emotional exclusivity. I'm old-fashioned enough to appreciate, expect the need for her to be physically exclusive in the marriage. Maybe it's why I frequently consider myself old-fashioned. We are preached to all the time about everyone having the right to this, that, and the other. Everyone should put themselves first. Everyone deserves to lead their own life. Personally, I've always felt that my exclusive right to me ended when I got married. That was my commitment. I was now half of a marriage, not an individual. So, she is exercising her right to be emotionally attached to others, mostly female friends, and I am jealous of that, but feel that I'm wrong to feel like that because she, as an individual, has the right to use her emotions as she wishes. If that bit is correct, that she can use her emotions with other girlfriends, then why is it wrong for her to be emotionally sharing herself with another man or men? This is my confusion, and this is why I find it so difficult to accept that an EA, if even fair to call it an affair, is cheating. If it isn't cheating, then I cannot allow myself to be sufficiently selfish to walk away. And I hope that this doesn't sound like I'm throwing all the excellent advice I've received here back at you guys. That is not my intention at all, and at the end of the day, whether or not she's cheating isn't really important. It's whether or not I have a quality of life that makes it appropriate to stay in the marriage. I have practically no quality of life, so that answers that. Emotionally detach me from her. It scares me senseless though, because what then? What when I'm no longer emotionally attached to her, but still living with her and still, legally, married to her? How do I bring myself to move on? I know, in theory it should be easy by then, but I'm afraid of becoming emotionally attached again. I suppose I'm telling myself that I need to go through all the pain in one go, whereas I'm also thinking it'll be easier to do small steps until I'm strong enough to jump, but fearing that if I do so, I'll never jump. Boils down to lack of confidence, I think. We do still sleep together. I don't think we've ever not shared the same bed. Apart from when one of us is not home, obviously, me with work, or her on her girly nights, weekends away. She hardly ever initiates bonding, now or before things were barred, if I can remember that far back. When she does initiate it, it's just enough for her to say that she started it, and then it's over to me. If I initiate it, which I'm simply not doing at the moment, then 90% of the time she'll do very little in return. Occasionally I'll get some foreplay back, but again, only the minimum. In all the time I've been with her, she's performed oral on me less than 5 times, and never what I'd call a full session, if you follow my drift. I'll go down for ages, do everything I can, but very rarely will she let herself go. Either I'm awful, or she just isn't willing to let me make her come. That would mean I'm good at something, or she lost control. So, plenty of red flags, I know, but for me, bonding is not a massive part of a relationship. It's important, but not the be-all and end-all. I'd rather be in a non-physical marriage than a loveless marriage, for example. Problem is that she's very outwardly physical, all the flirting and innuendo, etc. It makes me think that it must be me that turns her off. And then there's that thing where she makes it sound like a job you have to give out occasionally. When you're married, it's only fair to the guy type of thing. Or, even worse, is the feeling that I should be grateful, as if I'm punching above my weight. It's horrible. Essentially, she wants to be happy time nearly every time and resents when occasionally, very, very occasionally, I want to be craved for, wanted in return. The net result is that I often feel we've gone through the motions to make me happy, content. Which ironically is the exact opposite of what I feel. After bonding, I almost always feel regretful that I've allowed her to think I'm happy with her, with the relationship, or guilty that I've used her, or unfulfilled, because it was essentially one way, meaningless, loveless. I'm trying to remove myself emotionally from the absolute attachment to her. I'm scared of doing anything physical, like sleeping in a different bed, telling her I'm detaching. So rather than do nothing and continue live with the daily emotional war going on between various parts of my brain, common sense and logic versus reminiscing, fear and optimism, I need to do something. Detaching emotionally, is that something that I feel is achievable right now? So, let's start there. Do you think that this is a step worth taking, or is it just not enough to count as third step? I've put down accepting my codependency and her narcissism as step 1, and acknowledging at least emotional affairs as a second step. Doing the 180, I've had to fake not being interested in what she does. Every bit of me wants to ask her about her nights out, etc. That 180, at this point in time, is not quite working for me. Or at least I'm not working for it. What detaching with love, as my counselor puts it, is the act of honestly removing yourself from the emotional ties to the other person, so that rather than faking to not care, you actually don't care. You care for their well-being, but you don't care of the effect on you because it has no, or should not have any, effect on you. I appreciate that this makes it sound harder rather than easier, but, and this will be strange for someone who's not codependent, it removes the need to lie, and therefore be filled with guilt and fear of being found out. I'm frustrated that people find it hard to believe that a man can be scared of a woman. I'm big, over 6 feet and around 240 pounds. She is petite. It's not a physical thing. As I've confirmed earlier, my counselor has identified potential PTSD and possible Stockholm Syndrome. When someone systematically emotionally abuses you for years and years, your size means absolutely nothing. Your bonding means absolutely nothing. I've been brought up to show nothing but love and respect towards women. Never lift a hand. I have not had my testosterone levels checked. I don't think it's a problem, because I'd say that I do have a fairly good desire, just don't get to use it. But I will call with the doctor to ask him what he thinks. Not even sure where to look for psychological testing. But again, I'll ask the doctor and take it from there. I'm a successful guy professionally. I manage a load of staff every day and make good money. I have the respect of the staff, although I'm accept that I'm seen as a gently boss rather than a bully. I've had to discipline, fire, and hire loads of the years. I also have the respect of my customers and clients. Basically, I long for a nice, easy life at home. My work life is so demanding, and has been forever, and stressful with responsibility and accountability. I don't need that crap at home, and rather than deal with it, I've always let it go. She's accumulated more and more confidence, control over the years, and the net result may well now be Stockholm Syndrome. My going out with the guys would be a lot easier if I were detached from here, because I'd be more relaxed. I suppose the reaction is what scares me most. So what you're doing is asking me to confront the worst bit of the whole situation first up, rather than build up the courage to do it. It creates a physical reaction in me when I think about going out with my friends and drink. I occasionally go out with my work colleagues, maybe 2 to 3 times a year, for a meal and a few drinks. I don't drink on those occasions. I make my excuses and drive. To be fair, I don't get too much abuse, but I'm made aware that she could give me abuse, and it's very much her choosing to not. By not giving me crap at that time, she is allowed to store that one up for future bull crap. God, I feel so frustrated with myself typing this. I can see how damn stupid it all is. Funny thing is, as I detach more, the more content I feel in the relationship, and that scares me. It scares me that I'll be stuck here forever, because if we don't argue, the relationship is okay, isn't it? I know the answer, just telling you how my mind works. By detaching, we don't argue, but we don't act married either. My health is okay physically as far as I can tell. Mentally, I'm scared that I'm beyond being normal anymore. That really does scare me, that my scars, worries, will never be normalized again. I think it's self-feeding, and that I often convince myself that I need to stay in the relationship I'm in because better the devil you know than take a risk of not being able to love, trust another in the future. I'm not scared of being alone. I often think that I'm a loner and would be better off that way. But I am scared of not being able to be friends with a woman because my WW has convinced me that I cannot be just friends. Working with my counselor, the path I'm working towards is being a stronger, more confident person who has at least some confidence and feeling of self-worth. I'm happy that I've made more progress in the last month than in total for the past 6 to 12 months, so I'm viewing that positively. And, in all honesty, I think the most obvious feedback that there is some change in the air is the way the boys have been with me. They seem to be happier in general, but particularly they seem to want to be around me more. One loves gaming and he wants me to spend time gaming with him, for example. They just seem to treat me more as my own person or dad rather than mom's deputy. All that said, tonight, it's already past midnight here, I'm struggling. I cannot stop seeing one of the other man in my mind and feeling absolute hatred towards him. I know that the hatred should be directed at my WW, but hey. Anyway, I'm off to see if I can manage some sleep. My comment, this video is a lesson for those who behave weak in your marriage. You just get treated like a dog. Remember that.